Greetings, geeks and nerds. I'm the Universe and White and Nerdy. Now, I know that a lot of you guys actually know that I'm a Godzilla fan, but I actually do really like King Kong, and in fact, it's actually been a while, but I have seen the 1933 original, thanks to my grandmother actually being making me intrigued to watch that movie. And even till to this day, that some of the great effects of the original 1933 King Kong really still do stand out. Yeah, I own the Peter Jackson film. And yeah, I own Godzilla versus King Kong versus Godzilla. But there was one film that King Kong had that I'd never seen. See, back during the early days of Toho, when Godzilla was a big name, and it still is a big name for Japan, Japan actually had the copyright for King Kong for a short time. In fact, if you remember, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster was originally supposed to be a King Kong film. They later changed it to Godzilla to make it even more profitable, to make somewhat of a good profit dollar on that change at the box office. And then, even still with Jet Jaguar, he was supposed to, in Godzilla vs. Megalon, it was supposed to be his own film, but then they felt like that Godzilla should have been in it instead of, just Jet Jaguar alone. But there was a sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong. So, remember at the end of Godzilla vs. Kong when Kong ran away after defeating Godzilla? There was a sequel to that, believe it or not. Yeah, Godzilla vs. Kong had a sequel. Well, I mean, the Godzilla vs. Kong movie that we have right now is getting a sequel as of next year. But the original King Kong vs. Godzilla had a sequel that I had never seen before. So welcome geeks and nerds to my honest review and actually my first reaction, initial review, blah 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 blah. Insert fancy words that I don't know what they mean here. But welcome geeks and nerds to my review of the original sequel to King Kong vs. Godzilla. So welcome to my review of Yep, after the first original movie, King Kong actually was famous enough to get a sequel, though this time he would be without the big G and on his own. Though I think that is less of a sequel and more the fact of Toho going, hey, we have this big monstrous gorilla. What can we do with him? So after the events of Godzilla vs. Kong, you can check out my Godzilla 4 movie review to check out on that. King Kong did defeat Godzilla in their epic battle. So when Khan won, he wasn't really running away, so to speak. He would go into a brand new movie, to a brand new island, to start a brand new life for himself. Thanks to other YouTubers like James Wolf at Cinemassacre, Lewis Lovehug, aka Linkara of Atop the Fourth Wall, and Alex the Hunted, I knew that this movie existed, but I've never officially seen this movie, not until I bought the 3 DVD combo pack at my Dollar General for $8, which included the Peter Jackson King Kong, King Kong vs. Godzilla, and King Kong Escapes, which is a film that we're going to be looking at today and also reviewing. And also, I've chosen this movie because this month is the 60th year anniversary of Doctor Who. There is a good reason I chose this movie to review for the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. And a lot of people are probably gonna not believe me, but King Kong Escape fans will know what I mean. So, I'm gonna give you guys my personal opinions on Godzilla vs. Kong with King Kong Escapes. Sorry. I guess my brain just keeps going back to that. I apologize for that. But I'm going to be giving you my personal opinions on King Kong Escapes, the overall plot, the overall characters, and also just the movie just in as a total. But I will admit that King Kong Escapes at first seems kind of like a boring film to me because when this movie starts out, it starts out with all the main characters on a submarine, and it's kind of boring. No, I admit, it's important to get your characters across, it's important to be obvious with the characters, but does it have to be on a submarine? Anyways, our 3 main characters here are looking at props or something, original drawings, whatever, from Godzilla vs. King Kong. Although the funniest thing is that the characters admit that King Kong is just a legend, even though not too long ago he was attacking Tokyo, Japan with Godzilla. Anyways, this movie has a villain. Yes, this movie actually has a villain. And the villain is this evil looking bastard who creates a giant Mechanicon. Oh, that's not a joke, by the way. He actually builds a legit giant Mechanicon based off of the original models of the original King Kong. Go figure. And Mechanicon's not as cool as Mechagodzilla. I know that people can judge a book by its cover, and that's the worst thing ever to do. But in fact, when I first heard of Mechanicon, I was kind of interested, and even when I looked it up on the Toho Kingdom, like website, I was like, ah, he looks cool. And then actually seeing him in action is like, ah. But Mechagodzilla had like missiles and lasers and everything, and Mechanicon doesn't have really that many powers. He can drop bombs. He has a bright light that he can flash in people's eyes. He's super strong. So there's no real point in having him be the villain. But hey, this is the villain behind the movie. Want to know why I've chosen this film to review for Doctor Who's anniversary? Alright, I gotta come clean. It's because the villain's name in this movie, no joke, the villain's name in this movie is actually Doctor Who. Just look for yourself.
Who wasn't satisfied with the robot. He wanted the real Kong.
Just had the subtitles on to prove that I was right. Anyway, the team decided to go to Mondo Island to see if they can find Kong, but instead of finding an orange-skinned native. A native with orange skin. There's a joke I could make here about a man with orange skin who's sent to an island for all the bad things that he done in humanity. Some people voted for him in 2016, and some people think it's a good idea to vote for him in 2024. But for the life of me, I can't seem to make that joke. I got it! Stop picking on Fire Breather! A lot of people don't know who that is, but that's a joke well out of the way. I couldn't make a presidential joke or whatever. Me talk about politics and jerk-offs that were voted for president. Well, could you imagine such a silly concept of me joking about things like that? Anyways, our fair lieutenant here doesn't end up meeting Khan at all. But instead, she ends up meeting Gorosaurus in its very first debut appearance in the Tokyo movies. But that is until King Kong is awoken and takes a liking to the lieutenant. Because of course King Kong will take a liking to the lieutenant. But it's time for him and Gorosaurus to fight. I said it's time for Kong and Gorosaurus to fight. Oh, Jesus Christ. So after 10 goddamn minutes, they actually do start fighting, and Kong just beats the poor shit out of poor Gorosaurus. Don't worry, Gorosaurus, we'll see you again and destroy all monsters. But the nefarious Doctor Who has other plans. See, Doctor Who wants to kidnap Kong. The reason why is kind of a stupid reason that can be summarized pretty quickly. So see, unlike the usual Doctor Who's, who usually have a point in why they're going time traveling and universe jumping into different universes and whatnot, Khan instead, or Doctor Who in this case, he creates a giant Mechanicon to get a element that is known as Element X that he wants to grab for the universe so he can create nuclear weapons and arm himself with nuclear war and go up against like Soviet Russia and also the United States of America. You can tell that this movie is dated because I have mentioned basically the Cold War in this movie. So yeah, Japan, because of Doctor Who, wanted to join in on the Cold War, according to this movie. So Doctor Who could have destroyed the world in this sense. But the Mechanicon malfunctions when it sees the bright shiny lights of Element X. And why I'm keeping that out is because I am afraid of any fan of mine or fans of mine that have epilepsy or weak heart or problems with seeing bright lights. I'm keeping you safe by not showing you any clips that involve Element X because there's a lot of flashing lights involved. So you're very welcome. So the reason why he wants to take King Kong is because he feels that Kong would be able to get him the Element X. Oh, he's about 50%. He's about 25%, right? But there was something that ended up happening between King Kong that made him want to go apeshit on the Doctor. Yeah, Element X did something to Kong, made him go apeshit, and then he decided that he's gonna attack Doctor who freaks out and locks a giant door on King Kong. Think to his human friends, Kong escapes going after Mechanicon. It's kinda stupid and pointless, but yes, Kong does go after Mechanicon to go and fight him. Also, Kong tried to destroy Tokyo. Yeah, you would think that the military would learn something after King Kong vs. Godzilla, but apparently they learned nothing. So yeah, in this movie, King Kong actually ends up fighting Mechanicon that ends up going about as well as you'd expect between two giant gorilla-type monsters. Okay, so to be fair, the movie's kinda dumb and pointless, but can you blame me that the fight was made fucking dumb in a King Kong movie of all things? You know, people make fun of the Peter Jackson films because they're long and they're kind of like drawn out, just like the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit films. But you know something? At least that there's something that keeps you coming back to those movies, right? With King Kong Escapes, the fight sequences were done by Edgy Tooth Borea. And if that name sounds familiar, this is the godfather of Ultraman and the creator of frickin' Godzilla and a bunch of other movie monsters. This man is a Japanese icon and giant monsters. This man knows how to put together fight scenes. There's a lot of fight scenes that were really great and interesting in the Ultraman series. But why is King Kong Escapes fight scene boring? I admit the one with Gorosaurus is kind of interesting, except at first they're kind of like, yeah, put him up, I'll fight you with one hand tied behind my back, put him up. And then it goes nowhere until like a few minutes in, and then they finally fight with King Kong kicking the fucking shit out of Gorosaurus. There's a fight with a water serpent, I guess kind of like Manda, that goes nowhere either. I mean, King Kong just kind of fights it, and then it just ends up dead or defeated, assumably. And with King Kong versus Mechanicon, is okay, but it still goes nowhere. But then King Kong actually gets revenge on Doctor Who. Let's see how that goes for the poor Doctor. I mean, he could defend himself against a giant 60-foot tall super strength gorilla, right? I'm pretty sure that he could manage himself.
You got knocked the fuck out, man! Give me my goddamn.
Yeah, that went about as well as I expected. And so that was my review of King Kong Escapes. I mean, there's a lot that happened with the uninteresting characters, but they weren't really interesting or to be in the least. Yeah, also that ties into the King Kong TV show that existed at the time. And I don't mean the Kong animated series or the one that was released on Netflix. No, I mean the really, really old King Kong cartoons. Like back in the 60s cartoons. So, yeah. So, King Kong Escapes is a decent film to say the least. It's not great, but it's not necessarily bad either. It has its high moments, some of the fight sequences are great, but the story is kind of lackluster. The characters were very uninteresting. In fact, the only really interesting character because he played the role so well was Doctor Who was the villain. He's maniacal, but yet he's as funny maniacal. Like you can see yourself coming back and liking this guy more than you like to admit, truthfully. So when it comes to my Funko Pop rating, I do. It is kind of hard to think of. I wouldn't give it an Aquaman because it didn't rise above my expectations. I wouldn't give it a Magic because there was no real magic that was involved in the movie. I feel. So I do have to say that it is that for me and probably a lot of other people, I'd have to give it the courtesy of an Elder Bloodstone. One that can definitely feel like a gem hidden amongst monster movies. While it's probably not as great as some of the other lower filmed monster movies like Frankenstein Conquers the World or War of the Gargantuans, but it comes pretty close in standing on its own. So my Funko Pop rating of King Kong Escapes is going to have to be an Ultra Bloodstone. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me at Twitter with the link in the description down below. And tell me which version of King Kong is your favorite. Do you prefer the 1933 original, the Peter Jackson film, or I think it came out in 76, the 1976 King Kong film? Let me know in the comment section down below which one is your favorite. Also, let me know if you are excited for Godzilla and Kong sequel. I forget what it was called again, The Lost Kingdom. Let me know if you're excited for that movie for next year in the comments down below. And I think that next time, speaking of Ultraman, I think it would be proper for me to actually review the series since it's been in my collection for almost like 10 years now since I bought it. So come back next time as we'll be taking another trip to Japan and checking out the 1966 classic series and the birth of the amazing Ultraman series.